injury report for the Bucs versus the Falcons because, oh man, there's a lot of people on that list, Billy. There are a lot. Let's go ahead and get started with the linebackers. You have KJ Britt, who was limited on Wednesday, full participant on Thursday, so that's good. You have Lavonte David, who was full go on Wednesday and on Thursday. You have Devin White, who did not participate on Wednesday or Thursday either. And Servassier Dennis, who was full go on Wednesday and Thursday. Finally seems like the Bucs are getting a little bit healthier at that linebacker position, Billy. And we've talked about JJ Russell and Ryan Neal both stepping up, but obviously getting one, if not multiple, of those linebackers back is very, very huge for the defense, correct?
Yeah, it comes at the absolute perfect time because the Atlanta Falcons are a running football team. I mean, Desmond Ritter threw the ball 27 times last week and he had 12 completions. They won a game with 121 yards out of their quarterback. So they're going to run the football. All right. I think the Buccaneers' ability to stop the run is going to determine whether or not they win the game. Tackles in space, something the Buccaneers have not really thrived in this season, going to show up in a big way this week. And having a guy like Lavonte David or just having a linebacker instead of a safety playing linebacker going to make a huge difference because the Falcons, if anybody actually watched the Falcons Jets game last week, I know who would do that, right? But I did. And the Falcons' entire game plan is running backs and tight ends. They hand it to the running backs, they throw it to the running backs, and then they throw it to the tight ends. And who's going to be engaged with those individuals the most? Linebackers. So it's going to be a big day for the Buccaneers linebackers, matchups all over the field. Bijan Robinson had 3 catches last week. Cordell Patterson had a catch. Bijan Robinson with 18 rushes, 8 rushes out of Tyler Algier, and Cordell Patterson had 5. I mean, that is just a team who's willing to run the ball. And against the Jets, again, if you guys watched the game, they had minimal to no success running the ball early, but the Falcons are willing to stay with it. That's their identity. That's who they are. They're not going to give up on it just because you stop them early. They're going to rely on the fact that they can wear you down. And the Buccaneers are going to really they're going to get tested. Their run defense is going to get tested in a big way. And it'll be interesting to see if they got the mettle to kind of stand tough and have the fortitude and the backbone to hang in there.
I agree. Like getting Levante David back's huge. Even if it was just Levante David coming back alone, that would be a really, really huge deal. But you're getting KJ Britt possibly getting worked back in there. Servassier Dennis seems like he's going to be good to go also. Devin White not being a participant is, interesting. We will dive into that probably. Well, no, we can dive into it now. I do wonder if you see some guys step up like Servassier Dennis or KJ Britt, is this maybe a Matt Filer situation where if those guys really come out and look pretty good, do you maybe sub out Devin White a little bit more? I don't personally see it, but hey, might as well try and bring it up, right?
I'm all for it. I don't think it's going to happen either. I think Devin White he is entrenched with Todd Bowles. He is tied to the hip with Todd Bowles as if he were in his belt loop. I don't know why, but it just is the case. So if Devin White is healthy and wants to play, I think he'll start definitively. I also want to add with the tight ends and running backs, Desmond Ritter completed 12 passes last week. One of them, one of 12 was to a wide receiver, 11 to tight ends and running backs. So that's where the Falcons are going with the football. It's tight ends and running backs. That's the game plan. That's the scheme. It's not even all Kyle Pitts. It's not all Bijan. It's spread out. Jonnu Smith, Pruitt, Cordero. It is spread out, but it is all those position groups. So linebackers, safeties, going to have to come up and make tackles and going to have to cover for sure. But yeah, Devin White. Go ahead. You go.
Continuing on with the injury report, you have Jamel Dean, who did not participate Wednesday or Thursday. That's a situation that's been going on for a couple of weeks now, so no really new developments there besides what we've talked about in the past already. Chris Godwin was resting on Thursday. Seems like he should be ready to go. Robert Hainsey is on the injury report, was limited Wednesday, full go on Thursday with a knee injury. So it seems like he's probably good if I had to guess, considering he was full go Thursday, but let's pay attention to that. Also, Josh Hayes was not participating on Wednesday, limited on Thursday due to an illness. Cody Mock with limited ability on both Wednesday and Thursday due to a foot injury. Tristan Wirfs was limited on Wednesday, but full go on Thursday, so it seems like he's going to be okay. He's been an absolute Iron Man for the Bucs. He's had a lot of nagging injuries. Here's another big
Yeah.
one. No pun intended, but Vita Vea did not participate on Wednesday or Thursday with a toe injury. That would be a big loss to this defense, Billy. The rest of the guys that we've named there, it seems like they're probably going to be able to go, but Vita Vea not participating Wednesday or Thursday, that's not good.
Yeah, that's a huge loss, especially like we just said, against a team that's going to run the football. But Vita Vea, much like Tristan Wirfs, he's had nagging injuries all season and has battled through for the most part. I kind of feel in my gut that like he's going to play. But I did want to take a moment. Tristan Wirfs, absolutely an Iron Man. And, it's one thing to be a good player, but, the old cliche, the best ability is availability, right? You can only be a good player if you're actually on the field. Tristan Wirfs, he seems like he limps off the field quite often and then limps back on. They just tape him up and then he's back out there. And, you got to appreciate that out of your star players for them to just, you know, carry on like that and fight through stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like, especially with tackles, right? Like, that's, concerning business with your tackles dealing with injuries. Look at Mekhi Becton. It completely, you know, blew through his career in terms of with the New York Jets, just the injuries that he had sustained. So anytime Wirfs goes down, you get nervous, right? Considering that Wirfs is the best offensive lineman, probably top two offensive player on this team. Him and Mike Evans are right there.
Tristan Wirfs might be the best player on the team.
He genuinely might, right? So whenever you do see him go down with injury, that's concerning, especially whenever you've got some other guys hurt along that offensive line, like your starting center Robert Hainsey, like your starting guard Cody Mock, who are dealing with some things too. You want that solidarity, you want that consistency, and it seems like everybody should be okay and should be good to go. With the injury report, you really the only three guys that I would say are very much in doubt, or maybe not even in doubt for say Vita Vea, but the two guys, Jamel Dean, Devin White, seems like they're not going to play. Vita Vea, we'll see. Like you said, he's kind of bounced back through some stuff before. If he doesn't, Greg Gaines would probably be that starting nose tackle, which is, Greg Gaines has been pretty quiet this year, I think, all things considered. Not even necessarily to say he's been like terrible. Like I haven't seen him make a ton of mistakes, but I haven't seen him make a ton of plays either, Billy. So he would probably be the guy who'd be subbing in for Vita Vea. In the case of Tristan Wirfs, it would be probably Justin School, but
Yep.
it seems like Wirfs is probably going to play. In the case of Devin White, all the other linebackers coming back, like Clemente David, KJ Britt, Servassier Dennis. In the case of Jamel Dean, nothing new. You have Zion McCollum there. You have Carlton Davis, who's still healthy and available. You have Christian Izien, who is still going to be in that mix, and a couple of other guys in there as well. So, yeah, a lot of guys who are kind of dinged up, Billy, with limited, but then full go on Thursdays and whatnot. So, really, the only three guys, in my opinion, worth paying attention to are Vita Vea, Devin White, and Jamel Dean as guys who are legitimately, you know, in potential of missing this game. What do you think?
Yeah, and at this point in the season, everybody's kind of dealing with something, right? Very few people in the league are still fully healthy, this late in the year. So you kind of expect it. The injury report for most teams is usually littered with a lot of names, a lot of faces. Hopefully, guys could play through it. Dean, we talked about this a few weeks ago. Dean on paper is a big loss because Zion McCollum feels like a massive drop off. But then when you brought up the statistics of some of the passer ratings against Dean and Davis and McCollum in comparison, it's not necessarily as big a loss as it feels like it should be. And it'll be interesting to see how Todd Bowles deploys the defense if Vita Vea doesn't play, especially knowing he's going into a matchup against a running team. It'd be interesting to see. I'm always curious about strategy and scheme and how, you
Might
know,
might see a lot more blitzing.
I'd be interested to see how he handles it. So I'm sure he'll have something creatively planned, hopefully. And yeah, it's intriguing to see how the matchup's going to play out for sure.
Also, just real quick, I wanted to make a note on the Falcons. They've got some banged up cornerbacks. I mean, Mike Hughes was full go with a hand injury. Jeff Okuda was limited on Wednesday. No go on Thursday due to an ankle injury. AJ Terrell is in the concussion protocol. He was limited Wednesday and Thursday. So the Bucs could very much take advantage of that, Billy, with their wide receiver room. And that's going to be one that's definitely worth paying attention to. But For the Bucs,
Mike Evans had a big day against the Falcons earlier this year as well.
he did. So that may continue. Maybe we'll see Chris Godwin get more involved. Fingers crossed. We'll see. But yeah, that is the injury report for the Bucs versus the Falcons, at least as of today, Thursday. So there you go.